Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dynasty SZN. Took a little week off there as I was taking care of some personal stuff, but we are back. We are going to go over the free agent moves and some of the trades and stuff that have happened over the last couple days. So, since last Monday, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. First thing I want to mention is TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson retired, or excuse me, Malcolm Jenkins retired. Reading my next line. TJ Hawkinson, they exercised fifth-year option for 2023, which we did kind of expect. And then we got some really weird news of Bruce Arians retiring from coaching or taking a front office role, as well as Malcolm Jenkins retired, New Orleans Saints safety. So a couple of retirements there and fifth-year option, which we kind of expected to happen for TJ Hawkinson. So nothing super big there. But a couple of things I do want to mention. Patrick Peterson resigned one-year contract in Minnesota. Auden Tate, former Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver who had a couple periods where we saw them do okay prior to T. Higgins and Chase being there and taking over when there was some time that AJ Green was out. We saw a couple times where Tate kind of stepped in a little bit. He's a big body guy, but it's only a 1 year, $1.1 million contract with Atlanta. But they don't really have weapons outside. So it's possible he gets an opportunity and puts up some points, but nothing we're really going to care about. Big IDP signing, Bobby Wagner, did go to the Rams. It's a 5-year, $50 million contract, but I believe, the way that contract's structured, it's more like a 2-year deal. But you're happy with Bobby Wagner for the next couple of years in IDP, especially with how consistent he's been, and they didn't really have a linebacker to take over there. They have a killer defensive line, and they have Jalen Ramsey and Jordan Fuller, Taylor Rapp. They've got some guys out there that we use for IDP, but their linebacker never really was a set guy. And this is going to make it Bobby Wagner. They went through quite a few people in that role. Micah Kaiser. They had a rookie there at the end of the year last year. I'm blanking on his name right now, but that's a big role. Plenty of tackles available. So they've been churning through guys, but Bobby Wagner should be a good middle linebacker for him. A couple other things as we scroll through here. Demario Byrd, we've kind of seen him bounce around. A little bit of time with the Patriots, a little bit of time with the Bears. Now he's going to Atlanta, like we said. They don't really have any running backs. Giovanni Bernard back to the Bucs. This one could be interesting just because, let's be real, Giovanni Bernard is very James White-like and could play a similar role. Leonard Fournette could very well just be the 3-down guy, though. So I'm not real worried about it. It may give Giovanni Bernard as like a stash, and if you have a bench spot available, maybe something works out. Maybe we get to play him in a pinch in your flex spot, something like that. But you're not expecting a ton from Giovanni Bernard. Maybe he gets you a week of injuries or buys. But other running back news, Marlon Mack did sign a contract with Houston. I don't have the money right in front of me, but it looks like he should get an opportunity to compete for that role. Their other running backs there aren't great. Dare Ungubawale is there, and a couple other guys that, not big names. So Marlon Mack, as the sleeper notification, what does this mean for Marlon Mack? This one did mean something for Marlon Mack. We got some hope for Marlon Mack. I don't know if he's going to get the job. I don't know how explosive he is. I don't know if he's got anything in the tank because we didn't get to see much of him at all. He was inactive down the stretch for the Colts, and it was the Jonathan Taylor show. So and they paid Nyheim Hines as well. So, they had no room for Marlon Mack. So we'll get a chance to see if he's got anything still. The Miami Dolphins were involved in another trade for a wide receiver. This time, instead of bringing in an elite Tyreek Hill, they are sending out a Devontae Parker, and it was like a 2023 third for a 2022 fifth. It was nothing really, but Devontae Parker, I think, is going to be good in the New England offense. Devontae Parker, he'll go up and get the ball. He's a physical receiver. The problem is his health, not his ability. He misses, game after game from injuries. That's not a knock on him. It is what it is. These guys get hurt, and we don't expect everybody to be healthy all the time. But the guys who are a commodity because they're healthy all the time. They're consistent. He just hasn't had that track record. And Devontae Parker, when he played with Tua, he was good. It's just he didn't play a lot. So I've always been a big fan of Devontae Parker and his abilities, but will his health allow him to be super fantasy relevant is what we have to see. They have Jacoby Myers as their leading target guy last year, who is on the last year of a deal. I don't know off the top of my head what Devontae Parker's contract is, but I'll pull it up here. So Jacoby Myers is on the last year of his deal. They have the 2 tight ends, and they have Kendrick Bourne and those guys. Those guys are all kind of there this year. So, but those investments in like Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne, those really kind of fall off after this year where the team could move on if they wanted to. So if they do like Parker, we could see him stick around for a few years with Mac Jones as that number 1 wide receiver. It's very possible. But he's going to have to prove it this year competing with Jacoby Myers. I don't expect Jacoby Myers' role to change a lot, but Devontae Parker is probably going to be more of a consistent 1 and 2 combo with Jacoby Myers and Devontae Parker than any combination we saw of Kendrick Bourne / Nelson Aguilar / N'Keal Harry, any of those guys. So I think those are the 2 guys you want this year. Moving forward, we really don't know. I think if they were to draft a very good wide receiver, we could definitely see somebody whose long-term value is very stable with Mac Jones going forward. Maybe not this year, but going forward after that, they could have an opportunity to step into a number 2 or even a number 1 role if the team doesn't end up retaining Parker for a long period of time. I pulled up his contract. It looks like he's got 2022 and 2023 with no dead cap. So I believe he could be gone at any time. Nothing guaranteed. So that's what it looks like anyways. I obviously could be wrong, but the way it looks is he's there this year and next year if they decide to keep him. He's only getting $6 million. So it's not like it is a ton of money for them to absorb. So they could keep him for 2022, 2023. He would be 30 years old in 2023. So this is still an asset that you're selling in Dynasty. You're hoping that right now, him going to the Patriots, if you can sell off that value and get more out of Devontae Parker than you could. If you could get healthy Devontae Parker value out of the Devontae Parker past couple years that we've had, then you're happy. You're really happy. But if not, you may want to hold him and see if he has a couple good games early in the year and see if you can get rid of him. Again, he's going to be 29 this year and 30 next year. So I don't necessarily think Devontae Parker is going to be a long-term answer just because of that age and the contract. They could move on at any time, just like they could after this season with Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar, all those guys. So they are primed to take a rookie wide receiver. If they take a guy that maybe like Christian Watson, who maybe isn't the cleanest guy yet, but they, maybe get him later and don't have to invest an early first round pick. If wide receivers start going off the board and they do have to take one of those second tier guys, a Jalen Tolbert or an Alec Pierce or somebody like that we could see develop over the course of one season, that could be very good. And I think anybody that can help that passing game add a depth element to it, something that can stretch out the field with Mac Jones. I think that they're going to have to elaborate that game. It was so run focused, and Josh McDaniels is out, so we really have to wait and see what it's going to look like. But it's still Bill Belichick, so I don't expect a ton to change from the team. Everybody there is assistants. It is the Bill Belichick experience. So I would expect a lot of it to look similar, even with a new person in there. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plans out. Some IDP news we got here. Rashawn Evans, former Titans linebacker that they did not re-sign. He signed a 1-year deal with Atlanta. This is probably going to put him in a very similar role to what he was in. He could be the second every down guy. It's only a 1-year deal. I don't know what the money is, but they have Deion Jones on one side. It's kind of a combination of like Michael Walker and I can't remember if they signed any other big name linebacker at this moment, but the Falcons, Rashawn Evans on a 1-year deal could be very Anthony Walker 1-year deal to Cleveland. Like, could be very productive for a year, but just doesn't have the longevity that you're looking for. But if you're a win now team who needs some linebacker depth, and you can go trade third or fourth round draft pick for Rashawn Evans, it might be worth it. Maybe you want to wait and see how the snaps pan out. It's always worth seeing the snaps. But let's see if there's anything else that we missed here. Andy Dalton signed to the Saints. Jabril Peppers signed to the Patriots, which is rough for Jabril Peppers owners. If you, like in our league, he gets kickoff. He was returning kickoffs as well, so he was getting some punt return yards. I don't know if it was kickoffs. I know he was doing some punts, but he was getting some return yards as well as the defensive points. So he had a pretty solid floor with a good ceiling. And you kind of lose that with him going to New England because they have Duggar and Phillips. So I don't know what role he's going to play. They still have McCourty. So I don't know what to expect from Jabril Peppers. And it's only a 1-year deal for $2 million. It's also a good thing to remember he was coming off an injury. So that's probably not going to be something that we're expecting to put in our lineup this year. Maybe he earns his way onto the field for one of the older guys due to an injury or something like that. But I don't expect Jabril Peppers to maintain very much value going forward. I'm probably not rostering him right now. He was very good for fantasy for a little while there. But at this point, we don't, I get it. He's only 26, going to be 27, but they just moved on from him. He's a former first-round pick, and he only got a 1-year deal because of the injury, and we don't even know if he's going to play. So I think you can always find a DB of that fantasy value at any time, even if you're playing a corner sometimes. It's not going to be a type of position I'm rostering, but I did go out and I went out and picked up like Eric Harris, just re-signed on a 1-year deal with the Falcons. Solid floor depth guy, but Traquan Smith, another one. I don't know if we talked about that earlier in last week. Traquan Smith did sign a 2-year contract with New Orleans. We mentioned Andy Dalton briefly, but to go along with the Andy Dalton news, we had Blake Bortles say, all right, I got to get out of here and get out of New Orleans. They did let him go. So right now we're just kind of waiting to see what happens prior to the draft. Are we going to get any other big moves? The Saints have made a draft pick trade with the Eagles to kind of get them in a spot where they have 2 first-round picks this year and could move up if they wanted to. And now the Eagles have 2 firsts this year and 2 firsts next year. Both of their firsts this year are right in front of the Eagles. I'm in the boat that I don't think it's likely enough for the Eagles to take a quarterback that it matters. Obviously, it is in the realm of possibilities because they just did it to Carson Wentz. They were rumored with Deshaun Watson for a long time. But I think the chances are more like 10%, 5% than they are 30%, 40%. Especially at this point of the offseason and how they've kind of backed Jalen Hurts ever since they kind of pulled out of Deshaun Watson sweepstakes and they weren't in it at the end and they weren't part of it. They really have doubled down on Jalen Hurts since then. So there's a lot of people down on Jalen Hurts' passing abilities, and obviously we've talked about it. He has the risk. So if we go into next offseason and he played poorly next year, he could be moved on from. It could be a Baker type situation. He could have injuries and end up not having the greatest season. But if he does, we knew that was a possibility. That's part of the risk of Jalen Hurts. He also has the upside of Lamar Jackson. So it's going to be interesting to see how this year goes and whether they take a quarterback next year. But what this trade with the Saints gave them the ability to do is next year they have 2 firsts that they can also use to try and move up in the draft for this better quarterback class in 2023, the Bryce Young, the CJ Stroud guys, the big QB prospects that aren't in this draft. So I think them giving Jalen Hurts a season makes perfect sense. I don't expect them to draft somebody. But if they did in a second round or something, third round, like if Carson Strong fell to the third round and they decided they wanted to take him and have somebody totally opposite of Jalen Hurts, they could. Don't know if they would. I just don't see them taking a quarterback. I don't think it makes any logical sense with the offseason that they've had and the things that they've said. But again, they've already done it. So it's in the realm of possibilities. And as much as it sounds crazy and that we wouldn't do it, and it's, just a dumb move for their team and how they're building their team, it's not out of the possibilities. So they do some crazy things and the ownership likes to get involved, and we've seen how it all played out. So we're going to have to monitor what they do in the draft, but they did stay in front of the Saints. The Saints have the ability to move up now if they want to. Got a bunch of teams that need some quarterbacks. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to take a look at a mock draft. And the mock draft that we're going to look at is going to be the most recent PFF mock draft. I'm going to pull it up here, and we're just going to kind of go through the first round and talk about what's changed, who's gone up, who's gone down, why maybe, and just look at some of these rookie prospects in the first and maybe a little bit into the second round on a couple of key positions that we want to talk about. All right, guys, we are looking at the latest PFF mock draft based off of what the sports books are saying. So this is going to be going off of the odds for each position, and we'll kind of run through the top few real quick, just because some of them have less early first round fantasy importance, but we will talk about them. We've talked about Aiden Hutchinson, Trayvon Walker, these guys, Thibodeau going early. So we know about them. Malik Willis at 6 here is the first big quarterback that we would be looking at in fantasy, and especially in your rookie drafts. If Malik Willis goes to the Panthers at 6, you're probably trying to decide if you take him 1 overall in Superflex over Breece Hall, depending on where Breece Hall ends up. If you think Breece Hall's landing spot isn't going to lead him to 3-down opportunity, or isn't going to give him touches early, or you're worried he's buried in a depth chart, Malik Willis might go 1 overall. If we get Houston drafting Breece Hall at 3, then I'm taking Breece Hall. But depends on the draft capital that Breece Hall gets in the landing spot. But Malik Willis is going to go to a team that needs a quarterback, whether it's the Panthers, it's the Falcons, it's the Commanders, one of these teams, the Saints even. If one of these guys take Malik Willis, he's probably going. The Seahawks at 9. He's probably going 1 overall in your Superflex drafts. If any of these quarterbacks go top 10, even probably top 20, they're top 20 through Pittsburgh. Any of these quarterbacks, whether it is Kenny Pickett, Malik Willis, Matt Corral, even, any of the other guys, Desmond Ridder, if any of them go top 20, they're probably a top 7, 8, 9 first round rookie draft pick, just because we expect them to get the opportunity. They got first round draft capital, and they're in positions to either take over this year or start of next year. The Lions are on there too. If the Lions take somebody at the end of the first round, say a Matt Corral, the end of the first round for that 5th-year option, you are going to throw him on your taxi squad and wait and know that he's going to get the opportunity. I think any of those guys go to the Panthers, they're fighting for the top pick, but mainly Malik Willis because of his rushing upside. The rushing upside and the insane arm on Malik Willis makes him the best fantasy quarterback in this class. He may not end up being the best, but he is our best prospect. He had the second most missed tackles in football in all of college football behind Kenneth Walker, I believe. So he was making people miss. His rushing upside is insane. He's got a cannon of an arm, but we're going to have to see the accuracy get there. We're going to have to see him setting his feet for his throws. We're going to have to see some of those things improve at the men's league. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think he has the capability to go number 2 to the Lions. I think it is in the realm of possibilities. And 2 weeks ago, right before his pro day started and the hype was real, I said, I really think he's going to go number 2. I would have put money on it. And I still think he is a very good chance to go 2nd overall if the Lions feel like the Panthers are going to take him. And if they really like Malik Willis as the best quarterback in this class and they are planning to take him, it's possible at 2. It's possible. Because we know they're in love with Aiden Hutchinson, and we don't expect Aiden Hutchinson to make it past 1. So anything can happen at 2. It's a total wild card if Aiden Hutchinson's not there from everything we're hearing. But right now, this mock draft has it Trayvon Walker, but I don't necessarily think he's going to end up going that high. I think that's people riding the hype wave. I think more of him going at around 7 is more likely, but we shall see. The thing about the draft and these betting odds is, these sports books are having trouble setting these lines. The best wins you're going to get is at draft night because nobody knows what's going to happen. So some of these lines are crazy and some of them change drastically in one day. But Garrett Wilson and Kyle Hamilton here at 10 and 11. Garrett Wilson to the Jets. I don't know how to feel about. Corey Davis has an out, or they could get out of his contract after this season, but I don't know if Garrett Wilson is. I don't know if he is going to be that outside guy that they're looking for. I feel like the Elijah Moore player is similar to Garrett Wilson, and maybe that's just me not being precise enough with their evaluations, but I would rather have I know that Drake London was talked about here at 10 for a long time, but that big body on the other side, like the Mike Evans to the Chris Godwin, that's what I'm looking for with a Drake London, and it's a lazy comparison, but a Drake London to an Elijah Moore. That's what I'm trying to get if I'm on that offense. But we've seen other combinations work, so we'll have to see who they take. Garrett Wilson is arguably the best wide receiver in the class. You can't take that away from him. And I do think Drake London is going to end up falling. I don't think Drake London going at 10 is a real big possibility anymore. But I just don't know if Garrett Wilson is the wide receiver for the Jets. So we will have to see how that goes. If it is, I may not be super in just because I don't know what the dynamic will be, and I'll have to see it. And we're betting a lot on that offense taking a step forward that we saw a little bit at the end of the year, but we haven't fully seen yet. So it makes me a little scared of the investment. If we have 5 top 20 quarterbacks, I'm taking all of them before I take Garrett Wilson. So it just depends on how it falls, and this is just one of the examples of how it could fall and how we got to pay attention to those landing spots. But now let's look at Kyle Hamilton going to the Commanders. This is a good one. If he falls in the NFL draft and he starts falling in your fantasy draft, I think he is definitely going to be an end of the first round IDP rookie pick. So end of the first round, beginning of the second round, if he's there at 112, you're definitely thinking about Kyle Hamilton. Especially because he's going to be probably a 5-year starter who can play all different types of positions, who can rush the passer, play in the box, play over the top. Like, he can do everything. His speed at his pro day, people are worried about his speed, but we've seen what this guy can do, and he is not Jamal Adams. He is not these really fast guys that are going to be out there and get drafted, top 5. He's probably going to fall, but I don't think he makes it past 12. So if the Commanders end up taking a quarterback here, I think the Vikings take Kyle Hamilton. They could still take a corner, but they need another safety, and their current safety is on a short extension. I think it was a 2-year extension for Harrison Smith. He's over that 30 age mark. They've gone through, I can't remember who it was. Somebody went to Philly after they left, and Xavier Woods came in last year and replaced him. I'm blanking on the name, but he played next to Harrison Smith last year, had a phenomenal year IDP-wise, went and signed a 3-year deal with Carolina, and looks pretty good. But they have a need at safety, and I would expect Kyle Hamilton to not make it past pick 12 because they would be killing it with him there at starting safety next to Harrison Smith. Then we have Drake London here going to the Texans. He's, this is the pick they got in the Deshaun Watson trade. He is giant body, but we haven't seen a lot of him in the pre-draft process because he's been coming back from the injury, and we're just going to have to see how it turns out. If he gets some good meetings in with teams. We got players doing overnight meetings and hanging out with teams and owners and getting to know the player and how they think they're going to be a locker room and scheme fit and their football IQ, getting to answer some of these questions. So that's something we got to think about, that these rankings are going to move over the next couple of weeks as these teams have in-person meetings. But Houston needs another wide receiver. They really only have Brandon Cooks. They have Brevin Jordan at tight end. They've got some young talent around Davis Mills, but is Marlon Mack going to be their running back? They just need talent, and they need skill. And if they think Drake London is going to be a great wide receiver, then they go grab him. And I think it helps their football team get better. And it's just a matter of what positions are you trying to invest in if you're the Houston Texans? And I don't think you can go wrong with wide receiver. So Jordan Davis goes next to the Baltimore Ravens. The Eagles take an edge rusher. And then Kenny Pickett, we got another quarterback. Again, top 20 first-round quarterbacks. They're going top 7 of your rookie draft probably. Only Breece Hall and maybe another wide receiver sneaks in, or a running back if Kenneth Walker gets a great landing spot. But that's really it. Jameson Williams here at 19 to the Saints. This is a great pick. I love Jameson Williams to the Saints. We may not see a lot of him this year, but the Saints also took Kenny Pickett. So we could see Kenny Pickett and Jameson Williams be the quarterback and wide receiver combo here, post Michael Thomas, post Traquan Smith, post all these guys, and in a new no Sean Payton era of the Saints. I don't like to, bet on a team's landscape changing, but there are times where we see these teams kind of turn over, and Drew Brees leaving was the start of that Saints team turning over. Taysom Hill is no longer a quarterback. He's a tight end. Jameis is not going to be their long-term answer at quarterback. They're clearly looking for a guy. They were in on Deshaun Watson. They still do have Michael Thomas. They re-signed Traquan Smith to a 2-year deal, but I would assume that is really a 1-year deal with a option of a 2nd-year deal if they like the price versus his performance this year and how much cap it's going to cost him. So someone like Jameson Williams coming in there and coming in with Kenny Pickett, both with 5th-year options from being first-round picks, like that could be setting you up to have success for a good period of time. Now, that's if you believe in the quarterback that lands there. If I was somebody, I'm kind of out on Kenny Pickett just because of the betting on the the exemption, or betting against the rule, betting, like I don't think him and his hand size doesn't mean he can't succeed. I'm just not choosing to bet on it. And I know they're talking about the double jointedness and that all, it could work out great for him. But I just want to take it safe. I'm going to play it safe. He could be very NFL ready. He could come out and ball. But the fumbles in the pocket and moving around is scary to me, and that's something that's going to get you off an NFL field very quickly. And then he's also, you take a beating when you lose those balls, and that's kind of what we saw with Daniel Jones. And I think Kenny Pickett could be the next Daniel Jones. We're just going to have to see how it plays out. If you believe in Kenny Pickett, though, and he goes to the Saints and they take a wide receiver a couple of picks after, if you somehow end up with both, you're probably happy, even if you're stashing them on taxi and waiting to see when they start. But we'll go to the next quarterback, Matt Corral to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the pick I want. This is what I like. I think he brings a very Mitch Trubisky style aspect to this team where they can have two quarterbacks kind of get ready. And if Mitch is running the same offense as Matt Corral and can help him learn it while he's there on that little 2-year deal that's really a 1-year deal with a bunch of incentives, if they do want to run that style of offense, and it's Matt Canada, and we didn't know what we were really getting to see with Big Ben, but it was a lot of short, quick passes, and some of that was offensive line, but how much of that was Matt Canada? But that's what Matt Corral does great. Matt Corral does the quick RPO timing pass. He does the accurate short ball and intermediate ball. He does the getting out of the pocket and hitting a clean throw to a receiver on a bootleg. He is that guy, but I think his upside is lacking in his passing reads. He was really a one-read offense, and that's the downside to Matt Corral. But I am a big Matt Corral fan. So if he goes to the Steelers, I'm interested. We saw Big Ben and his noodle arm, get Deontay Johnson a ton of targets, and I think Mitchell Trubisky is going to be fantasy relevant, and I think a mobile quarterback who can roll out and still dump the ball off to Najee and gain some extra first downs will help this team. But this next pick is one of my favorites, and it's Treylon Burks to the Patriots. Treylon Burks, if Treylon Burks is on the board at 24, I'm willing to bet money Jerry Jones takes him because he's from Arkansas. That's where Jerry Jones loves Arkansas. He is already having in-person meetings with the Cowboys, and if he makes it to 24, I bet they take him to replace that Amari hole and have another young wide receiver out there. I see it happening. It's a total Jerry Jones thing to do, but here he goes before 24, and it makes sense. The New England Patriots traded for Devontae Parker, and like it says here, that muddles this, but they, like we said, all of their wide receivers could be on their way out. Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, all those guys could be on the way out. And Devontae Parker, like we mentioned, his age, he's going into that 30 range, and who knows, no dead cap. So it's definitely possible, like we talked about, for them to bring in a rookie wide receiver and to build on that with Mac Jones. So Treylon Burks here would be a very good one. Next is Chris Olave to the Green Bay Packers. Love it. I think that Aaron Rodgers getting a weapon like Chris Olave would be very good. Everybody says, he's smooth. That's the descriptor everybody uses. He's smooth with his routes. He's very clean. He's, proficient at getting space. I'm just worried it's all about his speed, but if he goes out there and he fills an MVS role, then I could see him being successful. I could see him being more successful at MVS's role. But I don't know how Chris Olave can replace Devontae Adams. For me, if you are drafting here, I want Treylon Burks is a good one. Jameson Williams, those guys are gone. But then let's see, do we have anybody else go here? Christian Watson. This is the next one I wanted to say, but I just didn't know if this was going to have him in the first round. Christian Watson to the Chiefs here, which, for them is to replace Tyreek. That's what I want the Packers to do. But Chris Olave, everybody is very high on, and they love him. So him to the Packers here makes a lot of sense. You're obviously going to invest in Chris Olave if this happens. The thing that you're afraid of is, what if this team stinks without Devontae? What if this is the last year of Aaron Jones and Aaron Rodgers, and this team, I think they tendered Alan Lazard, so he's only got 1 year. It was a restricted free agent, I believe. So I don't like anything past a 1 year outlook for anybody on the Packers besides A.J. Dillon. So Chris Olave to the Packers. If you get him this year and he goes off with Aaron Rodgers, just know you may end up holding the bag, or you may end up with a guy who is so good with Aaron Rodgers that he's the alpha in the offense to move forward to, whether that's Jordan Love or another quarterback after that. So that's something to keep in mind with whoever goes to the Packers here. I am afraid of the archetype and style of receiver that Chris Olave is, and how he gets his separation and his speed being the main factor of his game. There are a lot of very fast players like Deshaun Jackson, MVS, who are only good for fantasy when they catch the long touchdown. And I don't want Chris Olave to be that, but that's what I'm afraid of, and that's the risk I think you're getting with Chris Olave. So I would rather we're going to skip through some of these because a lot of these aren't going to be real fantasy important. Devontae Wyatt, it is what it is. He'll go probably 4th, maybe 5th round of your rookie drafts if you want a interior defensive lineman. Packers taking Devin Lloyd. This is interesting because they did just re-sign Devondre Campbell to a 5-year deal, which is a lot of guaranteed money, and he was a stud there last year. So I don't know what this means. The other guy they have is Chris Barnes, who has been their rotation linebacker, a guy who comes out in sub packages. They keep Gary and Smith out on those downs with their 3-4 defense. So I just don't know if Devin Lloyd is going to have a spot in this defense in the first round. If they were going to move on from Chris Barnes, I could see this. Maybe it's a position where they use him as a rotational guy, as depth, like that third middle linebacker, or because they're not going to use him as a pass rusher, right? So, and that Preston Smith role and the Gary role is just, those are guys. So he would have to replace Chris Barnes going forward, and that's a little scary. I don't know how impressed I feel going into my rookie draft with Devin Lloyd if he goes to the Packers here. But, still first-round draft capital, but we've seen people with first-round draft capital, linebackers specifically, take a year to get playing time. Christian Watson, like I said, Packers and Chiefs are looking for a guy to replace big wide receiver ones on their team. Christian Watson going here, I think, is very, very, very possible. I think Christian Watson is going to go before those guys like George Pickens and that next group, the Jahan Dotson and Sky Moore and all those guys. But those guys are going to be very close behind. I do think that Christian Watson here is a smash grab at the end of the first round in your rookie drafts. It's very easy. There's probably, some of the wide receivers we've talked about already are going to go in front of him. Maybe Kyle Hamilton. Maybe, you got the quarterbacks. Maybe there's, how many running backs? Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. If Isaiah Spiller gets good draft capital, maybe him still. But like Isaiah Spiller could fall very hard. So let's look at the last couple picks here. Boye Mafe to the Bengals. Boye Mafe is like they compared it to David Ojabo here. It's that they're looking for the Preston Smith guy who can do it all. The Harold Landry, the kind of pass rusher, kind of does a little bit of everything position. And, the Bengals may use him that way. I don't think Boye Mafe is going to be as good, but he could. It's first round draft capital. You may take him third round, late third round rookie draft because you've already got the other edge guys. But Jaquan Brisker here being the next safety, end of the first round to the Lions. There was a time we saw Kyle Hamilton going number 2. They did re-sign Tracy Walker, but they need somebody to play next to him. And it's a good spot for a safety. And if Brisker goes here, I would be surprised to see Brisker go ahead of Daxton Hill. But right now, anything's possible. These guys down here are, pulling names out of a hat for us to try and predict. At this point, you have to think of everything that goes into these prospects. And Austin and I last week were talking about how, some guys are risers, some guys are fallers, some guys aren't really risers, but they seem like risers. Some guys aren't really falling. It's just the fact that other people are being pushed so high up by the media. But when you look at some of these prospects, you have to remember the prospect ranking and where they're going in some of these mock drafts, they don't necessarily line up because you have to have a player and a team like each other. You also have to have the team have a need for that position to fill because you're not you want to take the best player available, but these teams are looking at 3 different positions that they're trying to pick the best player available when there's a pool of 20 players that may be able to go at this pick 10. There's probably 15 players that you could argue in the first 5 to 7 picks. Maybe 15 is a little high, but you get my point. It all depends on the team, the landing spot, and these in-person meetings that these players are getting in the facilities. These are critical to showing that they're going to fit in with that team. They understand their football IQ is high enough to understand that the offense and what they're trying to do, if they're a receiver or running back, or the defensive scheme, if they're coming in and talking to a defensive coach and what they excel at and what kind of relationship they can build in the building during those visits. So it's going to be interesting to see where some of these defensive guys end up and how quickly they get on the field. But we're just going to have to play it by ear and go from there. This is just a one-round little rankings here. It shows, like I said, this is off of the sports books and where they think they're going to go. But the biggest thing I will say is these quarterbacks aren't incredible. They're still going to fly up your draft boards. Don't sleep on the wide receivers. Even the second-round wide receivers are good. Running backs are super deep. We're going to have to see where the draft capital goes and what their competition is like. Are they going to get any touches? But there are some guys that are going to be Khalil Herberts this year, where they get a random opportunity and they do well with it because they are a decent running back prospect who stepped into an opportunity that we didn't expect them to get, whether it be injury or just earning a job. So all these third-round running backs that were going to be third and fourth round NFL draft, maybe third, late second round rookie draft, third round if you're drafting IDP guys as well. These guys are going to be valuable, and whether you can only play them 1 week this year or you leave them on taxi all season, you're just hoping for some of the running backs to get opportunities where some of these wide receivers are looking at much better opportunities. Just something to look at based on the draft capital and how teams value running backs, their life cycles, and wide receivers. Always keep that in mind as you go into these rookie drafts. But as we get closer, we will do a couple mock draft simulations. We'll do some rookie draft simulations based off of those mock drafts, and we may do our own. What would we do as GM mocks here this week with Austin? We may do one. Maybe we'll do a 2-round mock draft. See what we can do and put it up here. Talk a little bit about the fantasy implications of those picks, and maybe we'll do a live rookie draft. We can get some people. But that's going to do it for this episode of Dynasty Season. Thank you guys for coming back after I took about a week off there. Like I said, due to some personal stuff for me, watching my parents' house and not being available. But we are back, and if you guys want to get in on that $20 giveaway for NFL Shop, make sure you enter on Twitter. The link will be in the description below and pinned on my Twitter feed at Heart Sports Talk. If you guys have any mailbag questions you want to get answered, go ahead and leave them in the comments below. Hit the like button and subscribe. Make sure you leave a review on all your podcast platforms with 5 stars or a positive review. Thank you guys, and I will see you next time.